Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, respected brothers and sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your prayers, your fasting on this first day of this holy month of Ramadan, that we have been given the pleasure and the tawfiq, the success to attend. A lot of us who existed between us last year did not make it to the Ramadan of this year. So it's a great blessing that we are here, that we are together, that we're given another chance to take advantage of this beautiful month. This month where we can repent, we can purify ourselves, we can improve our lives. And what's most important is that we take advantage of this month. And here we are, gathering together in order to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to make this a beneficial month, inshallah, by coming here, by congregating as brothers and sisters and believers after we've broken our fast. We come here in order to listen to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the words of the Imams alayhum salam, who take the wisdom from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And what I'm going to be trying to talk about in the next few nights that I'm going to be at your service, inshallah, are hopefully things that are related to contemporary issues. And the topic that I chose for today is a topic related to the artistic element in Islam. Now, a lot of you who went to university might not have been very interested in taking art. You might have taken it as an elective, but something that you just take, like the history of art and things like that, just to get an A and improve your GPA. I'm not going to make this into a history of art lecture. This is not my objective. But I want to talk about what Islam teaches us about art, as opposed to what we understand as art in the modern sense that we live in. If you go to the university or you've heard about the word art, you think of it being some type of subject that you go to university and you learn about. Art is probably about painting something. It's about making a design for something. It's something you go to school for to learn. Either you're talented, you're born, and you have this talent since your birth, or you go to school and you learn it. This is not how art was viewed in the human history. This is something that developed later on. It wasn't too long ago, almost during the time of the Renaissance, when art became a separate thing from the human life. In the past, if we look at the nations that existed before, art was a way of life. It was how you lived your life. There wasn't someone who went to school to become artistic in order to draw a painting or to make a special design that they can post on a flyer or something like that. Art was a way of life. Art was seen as the way to express the higher truths of reality. Every person was expected to be an artist. And art was reflected in every part of our life. The way the people spoke was art. The way they built their homes was art. The way they built their furniture was art. The way they slept was art. The way they functioned in society was artistic. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran talks to us about Himself fashioning things, creating things in a very beautiful fashion, in a beautiful way, so that everything in our lives should also mimic that divine activity. When I'm speaking to other people, how do I speak with them? It's very important for a Muslim individual to have an artistic way of speech. What was Imam Ali alayhi salam known for? What was the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam known for? They were known for their eloquence in speech. When they talk, everybody would listen to them. There was beauty in the way they expressed things. When they described things, they used beautiful words and beautiful expressions and a beautiful voice to express them. That was art. When the Quran is recited, it's recited in a melodious fashion. This is a form of art. When people used to worship in the masjid, and masjids were built, if you go to the ancient cities where Islam was flourishing in the civilization. You go to countries where you can see things that were built 500, 600, 700 years ago, and you look at all of those tiles that were put, all of those geometric designs that were used, the way the masjids were built. It was all a form of art. As Muslims today, have we continued this tradition or have we lost it? Even those who go into modern art has distanced itself from the real objective of humanity, which is to orient yourself towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You come to the postmodern world, if you go to art class, they teach you that art is supposed to be the self-expression of the artist. You have to describe what's inside of you as an individual. And if you go to even an extreme form of postmodernist art, if you go to the art museums, they focus on chaos. They focus on fragmentation. They focus on the dark side of humanity. You can see that reflected in the movies as well. There's a lot of dystopia, a lot of confusion. A lot of things that we see around us talk about the inability to understand one another, the inability to reach peace with one another. We're so diverse, and things are so subjective that we cannot understand anything. We can't know the truth anymore. Any event that used to be clearly wrong before, nowadays you find people debating it and they're not sure about it. There's confusion. And this is part of the postmodern movement, is to cause people to become confused by saying that there's no truth. It's all subjective. And a lot of times this coincides with nations that want to earn wealth. If you look at the Arabs before Islam, the Arabs before Islam, they used to have pilgrimages. One of those pilgrimages was to Mecca. Everybody's aware of Mecca, right? The Kaaba being over there. The Muslims go to perform Hajj over there. Now the Arabs didn't have only one Kaaba. Kaaba means any building or structure that is a square or a cube. That's what a Kaaba is. And the Arabs back then, they didn't have one Kaaba. They had multiple Kaabas. There was one in Mecca, which was very famous. And there were other ones that were to the south of Mecca, one that was very near to Mecca. There was one in Yemen, in Sana'a. If you go to Yemen, if anybody wants to go there, you go to Sana'a, there's an old Kaaba over there, and it belonged to a very famous individual whose story was mentioned in the Quran. His name was Abraha. Abraha was a Christian king. He went to Yemen, and he took over that region. He was very powerful. And he wanted to have the power in the region. So what did he do? He saw that everybody's going to Mecca and performing the pilgrimage. Remember, this is before Islam. So he built himself his own Kaaba. And he wanted to tell the people to not go to Mecca anymore and to come to his. And he designed it in a way that made it even more beautiful and attractive. His Kaaba wasn't a simple structure that was a cube and placed over there. No. He adorned it with gold. And he made it so luxurious. He thought that anybody who looks at this is going to be so attached and attracted to it that they're going to leave Mecca and they're going to come here. And he noticed that people were not coming to his Kaaba. He only got a little attraction to it. Most of the tribes that were surrounding Mecca that had their own Kaabas were also angry at Mecca because they weren't getting all the customers. Mecca was getting all the customers because Mecca was placed in an area where it was very strategic for those who were trading at that time. Anybody that wanted to trade, Mecca was in the perfect position. Those coming from the east, coming from the south, coming from the north, coming from the west, Mecca was in the middle of the area, and it was the best place to go. So it was flourishing. All the money was there. If you compare it to nowadays, a lot of the countries over there in the same region are competing with one another over who can get more tourists and who can make more money. This is like history repeating itself again. Every country over there in the Gulf region wants to become the hub. And their behavior is similar to what these people used to do. The people of Mecca, it wasn't only because their position was strategic that people used to go there. They also had a different mindset. The people that were running the Kaaba in Mecca, they said, look, we don't care about religion. It doesn't matter what people believe in. We're trying to bring everybody here to spend their money. So what did they do? They put idols for every single tribe that comes and trades there. They said, okay, we're very open-minded. We're a pluralistic society. If you worship Hubal, for example, we'll put you an idol there. If you worship Allat, we'll put your idol there. If you worship Al-Uzza, we'll put you there. You worship Jesus Christ, alayhi salam, we put a picture for him there. When you worship Virgin Mary, put her picture there. Whatever you are, we're going to allow you to place your idol or your imagery or whatever you worship, you can put it in the Kaaba or around the Kaaba. And this made it very attractive. Anybody was able to come. And then they found a representation for themselves over there. There's no Allah, there's no truth according to the heads of Mecca, the ones who governed there. They didn't care about religion. They only cared about money. So they allowed this on the outside in the name of being a pluralistic society. They said, whether it's Allah they worship, whether it's Jesus they worship, whether it's Hubal they worship, to us it's all the same. We don't care about who they worship. We just want them to come here and spend their money. So this is one of the main reasons why people used to go to Mecca and trade over there, because they found that they had some representation. Abraha in the south, he was a Christian. The Kaaba that he made represented a church. So it was called a Kaaba, but it was also referred to as the church of Abraha. So he wasn't able to attract a lot of people that were non-Christians. So Abraha said, you know what? If I can't beat them with my design and location, let me go attack these people. And it's true, he decided to go and attack Mecca. The very famous story that a lot of you have heard of, when he gathered the elephants, Surah Al-Fil. A lot of you must have heard of that, right? The chapter of the elephant in the Quran. He gathered the elephants and he went to attack Mecca. He wanted to destroy the Kaaba. And he thought by doing that, he'll be able to bring everybody to Mecca. So as he began to attack, the other tribes came to know that Abraha is going to destroy Mecca and destroy the Kaaba over there. Nobody stood in his way, and nobody defended the Meccans, because all of them thought if Mecca goes away, if the Kaaba is destroyed, then all of us are going to benefit. All the customers that were going there, they're going to stop going there and they're going to come to us. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a different plan. He went with his elephants, and the chapter of Al-Fil is very famous with the story where Allah had sent birds with stones that were burning, and they cast them on the elephants and the army of Abraha, and he wasn't able to go and destroy the Kaaba. He lost. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected that. After this event, Islam was revealed. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, and he wanted to bring humanity back to the origin and the source, to reorient them. If you look at the world we live in now, it's almost the same way. It's scattered. People have a lot of different thoughts. People don't know what's right and wrong anymore. Any discussion, any topic, you find people justifying this side and justifying that side. It's like one of these Greek skeptic philosophers used to say, for every argument that you give for one side, there's the one that's equally valid on the other side. Skepticism is becoming very dominant, and people are beginning to accept everything. The Quran came at a time when the people's mindsets in Mecca was like that, and it came to alter that. It was telling people that if you live this way, you don't have any standards, you don't have any values, you're not oriented towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to destroy yourselves as human beings. This is not going to bring you any good. If you go by your whims and your imaginations and your false thoughts and your false ideas, then you're going to suffer as human beings. And look at us. It's 2025, and we still bomb each other, we still kill each other, we still destroy each other. We still murder children, women, men, older people, younger people. It doesn't matter. The whole world is watching massacres happening. And it's not changed over time. So the Quran came to say that this is a problem not of your thought. You might think to yourself, well, we're in 2025, we're so advanced, we have technology, we've gone so much forward and advanced as humans, we shouldn't be doing any of this, right? This is your assumption. But in reality, we might have advanced technologically, but humanistically, we haven't advanced a bit. There's still the same disease and the same problem inside of us. In fact, this technology that we've invented to improve our lives as human beings, to make us more aware and to make us more understanding of one another, people now, we live in a world where we can see videos from others that come from all over the world. We're more understanding of different cultures, right? In the past, people were closed up, right? They belonged to a tribe, they belonged to a country. They didn't know who the other was. Everyone else was a threat to them. But nowadays, we're open to the whole world. Yet we couldn't resolve, and we still don't resolve, this one issue of difference. So what is the problem? What's the issue over here? If we look at the verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, when it comes to these idols that people worshipped, the Quran wants us to focus on what the main issue is over here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى. Have you considered Lat and Uzza and Manat, the third one? These were three idols that the Arabs had been worshipping at that time. God was challenging these individuals, telling them, this idol worshiping that you have, I'm going to challenge it. This is all incorrect. These individuals believed that these idols were either angels, female angels. And this is why in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to these individuals, telling them that you've given God the female daughters and you've taken the males, because they used to have this negative perception of females at that time. So God mentions all of this. He says, إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا أَسْمَاءٌ سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ. These are but names which you have coined, you and your fathers. There's no reality behind these idols. You invented something, and you and your fathers gave that thing value. It doesn't have real value. It has no objective value. I come here, and I make a shape, a structure, let's say, and I say that this is a superpower structure. Does it make it a superpower structure? If I build a car, just a model car, and say that this is the fastest car in the world and it can turn into an airplane and fly and do this and do that, but if it really can't, would it make it do that just because I said so? No. And the time that we live in now, people are rewording things and trying to make reality whatever they feel and whatever they think. Well, I feel that this is this and that. Just because you feel something, it doesn't change the reality of that thing. If you feel that lying in this situation is good, it doesn't make lying a good thing. Yes, you can lie to yourself. These people used to perform pilgrimages to Mecca, worship these idols, thinking that these idols are bringing down the rain, they're controlling the wind, the seasons are under their control. They believed it. But just because you believe something and you give a name to something, and postmodernism is very good at giving names to things. Everything that's supposed to be a bad thing suddenly has a good name that's given to it. We call things human rights, let's say. We call things democracy. But in the name of democracy, we go and destroy nations. In the name of human rights, we go and murder children. You can call it human rights, you can call it democracy, you can call it whatever you want. These are just names that you have invented and you put to justify your behavior. If there's no truth and objective reality behind it, it means nothing. So Allah in the Quran says, these are but names which you have coined, you and your fathers, for which Allah has not sent down any authority. God is the only true power. If God didn't reveal this message, and didn't send this messenger and didn't give that thing power, then it has no power whatsoever. All of humanity can get together and say that this thing has power. It will not give it any power. The real orientation we have as Muslims and what Islam tried to do is to direct us towards the source, the origin of existence, which is God. As a Muslim, your heart should be attached to the only real thing, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your hopes should only be attached to that one real thing, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You attach yourself to something else, you're going to ruin yourself and ruin the rest of humanity. The verse says, إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَمَا تَهْوَى الْأَنفُسِ. They follow nothing but speculation, conjecture, and the desires of the soul. They created these idols because they were the reflection of their own ego, a reflection of their own desire. And this is what postmodern art is also doing. You go to a museum, you go to the architecture that we have here, the designs we have at home, a lot of it tells us to do our self-expression. And there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself. The problem is when you believe that you are everything, the ego, the pride, the arrogance is the problem. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, while there has already come to them guidance from their Lord. And then he says, how many an angel there is in the heavens whose intercession is of no avail in any way except after Allah grants permission to whomever He wishes and approves. He said that if there's anything that can help you, it can only help you if Allah allows it to help you. So what Islam was trying to do here, it was trying to bring the minds of human beings, to tell them, remove these imaginations that you have of reality. Don't build a civilization based on your whims and your desires. You're never going to bring about a just society that way. You're never going to be able to do good for yourself or others if you do it this way. A lot of these guys that were living there, in the name of pluralism and the name of goodness, they were spreading corruption and evilness. And this is what we see repeating nowadays. So art is a very important thing in our lives, to go back to the main topic. Expressing yourself is very important, but not expressing your ego per se. Expressing that divine beauty that's inside of you. What art is supposed to do is supposed to help you transcend yourself, to go beyond yourself. Muslims have developed sacred calligraphy. All of you have been to masjids and areas where you find that there is very beautiful calligraphy drawn on the masjid walls. It's amazing what kind of beauty there is in this calligraphy. This art was passed down from one master to another. Alhamdulillah, when I was in Iran, I was studying in the Hawza when I was learning the Farsi language at that time. There was one teacher there. He was on the roof of the building, and he was the teacher of calligraphy. Every time you had free time, you could go up there, and he would teach you how to draw and how to write this beautiful. It was one script, one font that he knew how to draw, but he knew it very well. And when you go there, you think to yourself, I'm going to learn how to draw better, right? I'm going to learn how to write a very beautiful script of Arabic language. But then you see that this teacher himself is a person who was very spiritual, a person that doesn't just pass down the ability to draw and write beautiful handwriting. No. He was teaching you how to purify yourself. And as soon as I began with this writing, you begin with writing letters first. The first letter was alif. You take it and you start just repeating it over and over and over again. And this practice teaches you how to be patient, teaches you how to admit your faults and your mistakes. When you finish it, you bring it back to the teacher, and he looks at it and he says, okay, this was an error here, this was an error here, and he corrects it. But the amount of patience it takes to perform such an art. Imagine you're writing a whole verse. This is one letter. A whole word of calligraphy on a poster. One wrong move, and it's ruined. You can't fix it. There's no eraser, there's no delete button, there's no Photoshop, there's nothing. It's the poster, you're writing on it, whatever's on there is on there. It's not going to be fixed. So you have to be so accurate. And you think to yourself, I thought to myself it was impossible. No way, like I can write one letter and I can get it right. But to write a whole word, I'm bound to make a wrong curve. I'm bound to go a little bit above where I'm supposed to be. You have to hold the pen. It was a wooden pencil. It was made from a plant that grows in Iran. In Iraq, they also have these pens as well. They're pencils. You have to cut them at a certain angle and dip them in ink and then write with them. If it's not at that correct angle, it's going to make it too thick or too thin or too much ink on the paper. So many possibilities of making a mistake. But when you do it and you realize how much practice it needs, how much dedication it needs, how much focus, you start realizing that this is not just something that you're writing and it looks good. This is a spiritual act. It's teaching you patience. It's teaching you how to focus all of your energy and attention on that one thing over there. A lot of these New Age spiritualist movements talk about the power of the now, right? The now movement, live in the now, right? They take these from these religious teachings. And this calligraphy used to teach you how to live in that now because all of your attention and focus is placed on writing that correctly and drawing it correctly. Now you go on Photoshop or you type in a prompt in AI, write me a calligraphical sentence of this and that. They even have apps. I keep getting them on my phone. Download this app, buy this app, subscribe to this app. You just drag the letter, it's already drawn for you, and you put it next to the other one, and you get the most beautiful calligraphy. What does that do to me? It doesn't do anything. Yes, it looks good on the outside. But does it have the effect that writing that thing on my own and drawing it on my own have? No, it doesn't have the effect. So traditionally speaking, humans had invented these things to assist them on a spiritual level too. And as we're progressing, what they call progress as humans, we're moving towards this world where we become less and less creative. We have less activities in our life that help us focus. I need to develop focus. I already have a million thoughts in my mind every single day that are not allowing me to live a good life. I finish from one thought, I jump to another. But someone who is a calligrapher doesn't have the problems of being attacked and bombarded with a million thoughts. Why? Because he or she mastered how to place all of their focus on one thing and remove all of their thoughts from other things. This requires training. So calligraphy was a spiritual act. And we still have people that exist in this world that are calligraphers and master calligraphers, but the amount of calligraphers has shrunk. They're being replaced by machines and robots and computers. So what do we do as humans? Do we go with this flow? It's a decision that we make, right? How did people invent computers and technology? We didn't wake up one morning and we had all of this technology in front of us, right? It's a conscious decision that humans have made. They can also make a conscious decision of rejecting this. Okay, not everything that we can invent, we should have as human beings. The atomic bomb is an invention, it's a possibility, right? Should we have invented the atomic bomb? No. Would the world have been a better place if we did not have atomic bombs? Yes, of course it would have been. Weapons of mass destruction. Would the world have been better if we didn't have a bomb that you can drop on one area and kill thousands of people at once? Yes, the world would have been a much better place. Not everything that we can do, we should do. So as Muslims who are aware of this and have teachings in the Quran and from the Prophet and the Imams that tell us that we have to live a life of meaning, a life of orientation. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ الْحَنِيفِ. Turn your face towards the religion of God. This is your orientation. You shouldn't be moving chaotically with no goal in front of you. Every day you wake up, My goal is known. I want to move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to perfect myself. This is my goal. I'm not someone who wakes up in the morning and doesn't know what to do. Sometimes I think I want to improve my career. Sometimes I think I want to do this in my life. Sometimes I want to do that. Yes, these are all good if they're moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need a goal in your life. You need an orientation as a human being. You can't live chaotically. You can't live without a goal. Otherwise, you're going to be going through fluctuating emotions every single day. So orient yourself. As a Muslim community, we should be the ones who are developing solutions to human problems. Everywhere you go, everybody has mental health issues. All of us. Even the psychiatrists have mental health issues. Everyone. The doctor and the patient, all of us have issues. Right? What are these the result of? Is it the result of us not living the way we should be living? Or is this just a natural thing that humans have? Because there's an argument on both sides, right? You know, you tell people, how come 50, 100 years ago there wasn't so many issues like there are today? They'll tell you, well, people weren't aware of these problems. People had them, but we didn't have names for them. That might be true for some things, yes. But it's not true for everything, no. Because we know people who are living in different nations who have not been exposed to a lot of things that we're exposed to over here, and honestly, they're living a very good life. A lot of people are deciding to leave as well. Every time you have your phone in your hand, from morning to night, and you're going through reels, and you're going through all this imagery and colors and things that are bombarding your brain all the time, that doesn't have any influence on you, it doesn't have any effect on you? Of course it does. So what do we do as Muslims? We have to be the pioneers. We have to change things. We have to bring about solutions to people. Everybody in this community is supposed to be an inventor, an artist in their own right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created every individual unique in this world. All of you. You have your own own method and your unique method of expressing yourself. Allah created you special for who you are. Each and every one of you is an artwork of God. And God wants you to show that artwork. How? By reflecting it in the way you live and how you benefit other people. So as a community, we need more people who are able to develop their talents in this regard. To encourage people, okay, we have people that suffer from so-and-so problems. Let us develop this course for them. Let us go out and learn things that really bring good to the society. We have to be pioneers in this regard. We can't always be the ones who are following other people and imitating other people. Whatever is thrown on us, we take with no thinking. Whatever is flowing, we go with it. We go with the flow. No, as Muslims, those who have this deen of tawheed, we have to be ahead of everybody. If humans are going in the wrong direction, we have to fix that. How? Well, there's many ways to do that. Firstly, we have to focus on ourselves, to understand what the human problem is, to go back to our Quran, to go back to the ahadith. And in this month, you're reading the Quran every single day, inshallah. Maybe you can't read a whole chapter or juz'u, but anything that you read, any page, when you read it this month, try to read it consciously. Don't try to finish the book just like that. It's very good to finish the whole Quran. But it's even better to read the Quran consciously. Think about what is God trying to say in this verse. Because in our hadith, people used to come to the Imams ﷺ and tell them, how is it that the later Imams, Imam Sadiq ﷺ, how is it that every time we read this Quran, we feel that it's fresh, even though it's been 200 years, 100 years since the Quran has been revealed. It was revealed to people 100 years ago. But everybody who reads it feels that it's speaking to them. How? The Imam says that this is the beauty of the Quran. It has such a special trait. It has an eternal value that no matter who's reading it, whether the verse came down now or in 1,000 years people read it, It's addressing the same problem because it's a human problem. The Quran wasn't speaking to people that lived at a certain time only. Humans are humans, whether they lived 1,000 years ago or they live now. We have the same exact problems, the same exact issues. Yes, things on the outside change. They didn't have cars before, we have cars now. But who's driving the car? The human. Who was riding the horse and the camel? The human. Things around us changed, but the human is the human. And the Quran came to address the human problems. What is your issue, you, man and woman? Why is your life terrible here? What is going to make you suffer? It doesn't matter what time you live, where you live, whether you're in China or you're in Africa or you're in Russia, or I don't know why I'm mentioning all those regions that are supposed to be the bad guys in the news, but the US, South America, everybody. The Quran is addressed to everyone. Yes, on the outside, it was speaking to people that were living at that time. But the spirit of the verses is for all of humankind. Everybody, no matter the time, no matter the place. So when you read the Quran, remember that God is the one who fashioned this Quran. He created it, He revealed it. These are the words of God. And God is not me or you or a human being who is trying to sell you something or trying to convince you about a very mundane or simple idea. This is the creator of existence. These are His words. So when you read them, bear in mind who's talking to you. If you have someone who is a very big thinker, someone you know is very intelligent and smart, and they tell you something, you would assume that there's some wisdom in what they're saying, even if it sounded very simple to you. Why? Because you know who's speaking to you. No way this intelligent person is telling me this very simple idea. So when you read the Quran, keep in mind that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is speaking to you, the creator of the universe, the one who understands the small things and the large things in the human being. Every intricate detail inside of us, God is aware of. So when you read the Quran, always keep that in mind. What is this being who knows everything about me trying to tell me? So read the Quran consciously. Try to see what the objective is. Become creative individuals. Use the teachings of the Quran to bring about inventions. The one who invented the car, who invented the ship, the airplane, whatever it is, these were humans who invented them. Us as Muslims, at one period of time, we were inventing everything. The scientific world was in the Islamic world. But there was a difference. The inventions of the Muslim scientists was with purpose, was to serve humanity, to bring about goodness in their life. And it's about time for us to pick ourselves up again, to use the knowledge that we have to improve our lives and the lives of humanity as well. I won't take more of your time. This is the first night. Inshallah, we'll see you on the next nights as well during this month. Fasting is a challenge and it's very difficult for a lot of us, but always keep in mind that fasting is also something that God has ordained inside of us in order for us to purify ourselves and clear our minds. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us the awareness to awaken ourselves and awaken our souls. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.